All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Tuesday, April 22nd, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That's Jake Jimerson. This is brought to you by Rogue Sports Network, and this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. Jake, we are going to go take a deep dive into the Texas Spring Portal, some rumors as to maybe some upcoming guys that are on the Texas radar. We're going to discuss who they've already signed in this second window of the portal, and currently sitting at the 22nd spot in the transfer rankings for the entire transfer offseason rankings. I don't take too much dividends into where they end up on that ranking, because obviously when your team is already talented enough, you don't need that many transfers. But some guys leaving, some guys coming in. We'll take a look at the full class when it's all said and done. But in the meantime, we'll take a look at this second spring window in case you haven't heard the news. But Jake, kind of your take on what Texas is currently doing in the portal. Your initial feeling on the guys that they've got coming in, and anything you've heard on what they plan on doing further into the transfer portal window.
Targeted, quick, and precise is the three words I would use to describe the staff when it comes to the portal.
I like that. It sounded like you were prepared for that question.
You didn't tell me you're going to ask that. I actually just thought of it when you were asking. But
wow, I like that. That seemed like you had it rehearsed.
Every once in a while, I pull out something out of the bag.
That sounded like you were an actual broadcaster.
But I mean, that's what they are. I mean, this staff, they know what they need. They go out and they find who they want. They target them and they get them quickly. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they've done in this portal period. And I don't think they're done yet. I think they'll get some more. We'll still probably have some more entrants, trickling in. We really haven't seen too many outbound guys. The biggest name would be Bert Auburn, which I think to most Texas fans was not a shock.
And almost a sigh of relief, to be honest, following last year.
Which is sad because of the year before, he was a record setter.
Yeah.
And then last year was just such a crazy drop off. I mean, it felt like when Dan Bailey dropped off with the Cowboys. It just came out of it went from being one of the best kickers in the league to bad. And that was kind of what happened. I mean, it got to the point pretty quickly with Bert Auburn where it was like you went from used to being confident in him to just like, he's kicking a 39-yarder, 40-yarder. I feel like this is not going to go in.
Well, and here's my thing, and this is just a quick tangent. The one thing that I couldn't stand, Jake, was the national media guys on the big time games against Texas A&M in the playoffs. They just kept saying, "Oh, Bert Auburn, he's this reliable guy. He's this guy. He's one of the best kickers in the nation." And I'm like, obviously, you've watched no Texas football this season, because this guy stinks this season. I mean, he's been the most unreliable, inconsistent player on the entire team, and he essentially put Texas into overtime against Arizona State. He's the main reason why Texas didn't have that game locked up in the first place. There would have never been a 4th and 13 if Bert Auburn just makes a couple of kicks. And so,
Georgia SEC title game, they win that game if he could make a couple kicks. Yep. I mean, he missed what, 3 kicks in that SEC title game.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they win the game if he can make those. So yeah, I mean,
and you're lucky it didn't pan out that way throughout the regular season. I mean, there are opportunities that it could have.
If anything, how good he was the year before ended up hurting more this year, because the staff didn't want to give up on him, which I get, and move on to Will Stone. I imagine Will Stone wasn't looking like a world beater in practice, especially now when you consider the fact they've brought someone else in.
Yeah, they're not.
But obviously, after the Arizona State game, the staff just made the move, but never really got into a field goal situation against Ohio State, or just went for it. And so this is a big that's one of the biggest gets out of the portal so far, because he's a proven commodity. Is Mason Shipley. And I guess I can just jump right into kind of what his stats are. He's 31 and 35 on field goals in his career at Texas State, was 15 and 15 in 2023, only along a 47 that year. But last season was 15 and 19 with a 60-yarder at NRG Stadium. So he's got a big leg. He can kick in those big stadiums like an NRG. And he's 111 of 114 on points after attempts in in his career as well. So pretty effective with extra points.
He is going to be a senior. So last year of eligibility is he's going to be a one and done. So Texas is going to have to refigure out the kicker situation come next year. But hopefully Will Stone at that point in time has kind of developed and is ready to go.
Yeah. And maybe this is an approach I think a lot of power conference teams will take at kicker is you go down and you get a guy out of the Sun Belt, out of the WAC, out of Maction, out of whatever it is, that's a proven kicker at that level, and just bring him up for a year or two. Kickers aren't going to be that expensive in the portal.
No.
Go get a proven guy rather than a high school guy. And if you get a high school guy, you develop him. Will Stone still probably will be the kickoff specialist for Texas just because he's consistent with that. Mason Shipley's a big get. Another Shipley in a Texas uniform. Not obviously not the same type of Shipley.
No
but,
relation.
No relation to my knowledge. But that when you saw Bert Auburn enter the portal, and I hadn't read just glowing things about Will Stone. I hadn't read bad, but I'd heard that him and Bert Auburn were neck and neck, which kind of tells you everything you need to know there. I figured that they were bringing in Mason Shipley because once I saw he entered the portal, I was like, pretty good Texas State to Texas. That just makes sense. And he's a good kicker, proven kicker, and Texas goes out and gets him.
Jake, another big name that came across one of the higher rated transfer ratings within the portal for the Texas class is Jack Andres from Cal, the tight end, 6'5", 230 pounds. And he's basically your honorary offensive lineman. He's an extra tackle out there in the run game. He does a great job pulling across the offensive line. Some great run schemes at Cal that he succeeded in, and can also do some damage to the passing game as well. We'll see if Arch Manning enjoys using the tight end as much as Quinn Ewers enjoyed using the tight end because he had JT Sanders, Gunnar Helm. We'll see if the newcomer is going to essentially, from all accounts that I've read from, he looks like he'll be day one starter.
Yeah, he will be. He's their best option. Washington will get playing time, but if you haven't turned on the film for him, I suggest you do with Jack Andres. He's a fun watch. He's going to be the best blocking tight end. We've seen it at Texas under Sarkisian. Helm was an effective blocker. Andres is a really good blocker. Mm-hmm. And he's very good in the passing game. He had over 600 yards last year. Only a couple touchdowns, but 56 receptions.
He had also 57. You have to take into account who the offense is.
Much like the Stanford transfer, you have to calculate in who they're playing for.
Emmett Mosley,
He had a 57-yard catch this year. He is very capable in the passing game.
I haven't had an opportunity to actually watch any of these guys. I probably will do my homework tomorrow. And then I'll come back with you. But I haven't actually sat down and watched any of these guys since over the weekend, obviously, holiday weekend. But looking forward to put my eyes on the tape and seeing what these guys can do.
Yeah, you'll enjoy his film. He's a fun watch.
I saw that, you've sent me a couple clips of him blocking and stuff, and I'm excited to add that aspect to the running game. I think he brings, again, Jake, we talked about it last week. This team has been working on its physicality in practice. And I think he brings another level to that physicality, especially in the run game.
Yeah. And when he entered the portal, he was immediately linked to Texas. Arch Manning was following him. He did have some links to some other programs, but he became a top priority for Texas. And there's a reason. Because like you said, he adds to what the identity is they're trying to make. And there's no questions, no doubts about one thing with what 2025 Texas football wants to improve on from last year is they want to be a better running team, a more consistent running team, and be able to run against top defenses. That's the primary thing. Texas was a very good running team unless you had a great run defense. The only good running defense they had success against was OU. That was more of a matter of OU's defense being on the field the entire game because their offense was so inept. That was a lot of second half success.
No, you're right.
On the ground. And so, I know Texas wants to be a much better running team. They expect to be a much better running team because that interior should be a better run blocking unit. not a better pass blocking unit, but a better run blocking unit. And being able to run the ball well helps you out in pass protection a lot, because you don't just have defenders pinning their ears back. You get into more third and manageable situations. And too many times last year, Texas would try to stick with the run against top teams, which you got to do. And they would be in a third and medium, third and long against Georgia, against Ohio State.
I can see Andres being the perfect safety valve in a play action, spider 2-eye banana type look of play action, have Arch Manning on a rollout, and then he's got a little dump off, quick little 5-yard, 6-yard out route to Andres, and he can either make something happen. Now, I'm not saying he can't get down the field. He obviously can, but I think with his skill set in the blocking game, you can use that in the play action for him to sell something and just kind of sneak out open into the out to pick up a quick 6 to 7 yards. And that's where I see him making more of his bread and butter in this offense than any downfield threat that we've seen from previous tight ends like in Gunnar Helm and JT Sanders. I don't think he's that caliber of guy. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was the Cal offense, and I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he had 623 yards. That's a lot of yardage.
It's good for a tight end. Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Especially on a team that wasn't some prolific offense. And some of his best games were against their better competition. Miami was the game he had the 57-yarder. He had 3 catches for just about 80 yards in that game.
Miami's defense.
Yeah, but that is true. But I think he is an effective receiver. Maybe, he's not going to be quite at the level of a JT Sanders and possibly a Gunnar Helm, but Gunnar Helm wasn't considered this big receiving threat going into last season, and he became one. I think Jeff Banks and the Texas offense figures out ways to develop tight ends in the passing game, and I think Andres could be. The problem is there's so many mouths to feed, especially if the wide receivers stay healthy for Texas. They are going to be in a pretty good spot at the wide receiver position, especially with Emmett Mosley coming in. But I wouldn't be surprised for Andres to have some big games where teams are focusing, on the top 3 or 4 wide receivers for Texas, and he gets loose in the middle. I think Sark is just great at scheming tight ends open, and Andres is an effective receiver. He is I think a little bit better of a receiver than you're giving credit for, and I think you'll see that when you watch him a little bit more.
No, for sure, Jake. You're exactly right. And again, I've already admitted that I haven't really put my eyes too much on the tape yet, but great frame, 6'5", 230, and really looking forward to how he gets schemed in this offense with Coach Sarkisian. All right, Levon Johnson, Jake, stats aren't going to jump off the page for you, but he's 6'3", 295. You and I, we had a brief discussion on the defensive lineman role, just in football in general, not just for this Texas team, but just the position for a defensive tackle and a defensive lineman and what their roles are. You're not always going to have an Aaron Donald. You're not always going to have a J.J. Watt. You're not always going to have these interior pass rushing freaks of nature, a Vince Wilfork, who's just going to be putting up sacks and is considered almost a hybrid edge rusher at times. You're just not going to get that at the defensive tackle position. Sometimes you just need a big fat dude to clog up holes and free up your linebackers. And I think that's what this guy does.
Yeah. I saw some people, granted, it's not the people, that I know of on Twitter that have opinions I care about, but going, wow, only 10 tackles, no sacks last year. Well, not all defensive tackles are out there to get sacks. In fact, most defensive tackles are not out there to get sacks or tackles. Typically, defensive tackles are out there to swallow up double teams, swallow up blocks, and allow your linebackers to run free. What does Texas have a plethora of on this defense?
Very skilled, fast linebackers. Yeah.
And so you want guys who can swallow up blocks, and, kind of like a Bill Norton did last year, who I do think became very appreciated because he made some big tackles down the stretch. But he was doing dirty work during the season that wasn't getting noticed, and he didn't have stats that popped off the page. And also, this is another guy. Texas brought in several transfers this year who have multiple years of eligibility left. Which is really interesting to me.
I actually really like that, Jake.
I do too.
I am a big fan of bringing guys in that you're going to get more than 1 year out of.
Yeah, because you get to develop them a little bit more, and those are guys who could make a huge jump in their second year. Not only to mention, a big jump in this year, but yeah, I think he's going to carve a role for himself on this team. It'll be similar to Bill Norton role, maybe not quite as much playing time as Bill Norton got, but he will be out there on early downs against run heavy teams, and then you'll kind of see where his role goes from there, based off the play on the field.
And it'll also just, it's a depth piece. I don't think you can have too much depth at the defensive line. Guys get hurt, guys get banged up. Some guys are used more strategically against whatever type of offense you're using. Like you said, Jake, if you're playing against a power run first heavy offense, you're going to have your big, heavy run stopping defensive lineman in there. Now, on the flip side of things, if you're playing a spread team and they want to spread the defense out and they're playing, sideline to sideline, and they're in shotgun formation with 4 wide receivers, you're probably not going to have 2 or 3 big run-stopping defensive linemen stuck in the middle, so he probably won't get a ton of playing time in that game. He might be used primarily for short yardage, goal line situations, but you can never have too many big bodies on your defensive line.
No, and we've all known that the defensive line is an area of need. I know the transfers they brought in have been looking pretty good in the spring, but they still just need more depth. I mean, they're an injury.
How many transfers is that, Jake, at the defensive lineman?
3, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a 4th come in. They're in the running for Murad Watson, a very talented sophomore out of Syracuse. He's 6'3", 313, another big body that they're trying to bring in.
That's 4, Jake.
Is it Cole Brevard? Oh, yeah, it is 4. Travis Shaw, Cole Brevard.
And then you got Hero Canoe and now Levon Johnson.
Yeah, 4, and they're probably going to bring in a 5th because they need that depth. They like to rotate their defensive tackles even when they have a very talented top 2. It's really proven to itself, the effectiveness of it, not only by the play on the field, but not affecting draft stock of those top guys. And so, yeah, I fully expect that. By the way, I was looking this up while you were talking. Jack Andres was the leading wide receiver on Cal last year. Just a fun fact.
Yeah, no, that's really good to know. That's a really good little nugget to add in there, because it's hard to know about some of these schools like Cal where their offense is anemic and you just don't know a lot about them, and a lot of it was predicated on the run game or spread run game, and so. And one of his great skill sets is run blocking. You're like, well, surely he can't be the jack of all trades. Well, it looks like Andres probably is going to be exactly that. And so put him into an offense with a capable quarterback, a capable offensive mind, and your head coach. And, let your imagination run wild with it, because as we've seen in the last 3 or 4 seasons with Coach Sarkisian, he likes utilizing the tight end. Now, was that a Quinn Ewers thing? Will Arch Manning also utilize the tight end? That remains to be seen, but very excited about the addition of Andres into this offense at the tight end position.
Yeah, and excited. I'm just excited about what they've done in this portal. I think they've done a really effective job.
It's not as flashy whenever you're looking at rankings and where they're going to line up, and and they might still be a top 15 class in the transfer rankings. I'm just letting everybody know, like, they're not done yet, and they might still rise in the rankings quite a bit. But for what this team, the transfer portal, when you're a team like Texas where you've gone to the last 2 semifinal playoff games and you're one of the last 4 teams remaining, there's obviously not a ton of holes. You're replacing guys who are leaving, whether that be draft, recruiting, or transfers. And you're getting complementary guys to fill a certain role on the team or a missing piece. You're not trying to rebuild your entire roster through the transfer portal. You're getting bits and pieces of guys that just fit here, fit there. I like a skill set that this guy has. Maybe I can work with him a little bit more with our defensive line coach or our position coaches. It's more so a scheme fit and a skill fit more than it is a game-changing addition to a team that already has enough game changers on it.
Yeah, it's plugging areas where you need depth. You need guys to rotate in. Or sometimes if you can just get a developmental guy, there is a little bit of that. But for Texas, it's mainly just finding depth pieces.
And
You
you need a starting tight end. Well, let's go find a starting tight end. Let's go find the best option there is.
Yeah,
you need
and
a
that's
starting kicker. Let's go get a starting kicker. You need a starting punter. Let's go get a starting punter. Like, it's not like they're not getting pieces that we're going to not see. It's not just depth pieces.
Yeah, I mean, getting a starting kicker, getting a starting punter, getting a starting tight end, all out of the portal this year. Maybe one of those defensive linemen start. We don't really know what that rotation is going to look like, other than Alex January is probably going to be one of the starters. But yeah, they're adding depth pieces, but they've got a sneaky amount of starters, and I think it goes under the radar because two of them are special teams guys. But what was one of the biggest complaints from us the entire year, from every Texas fan the entire year, was the kicking and the punting.
Jake, how did you feel about the punting last year?
Not good, especially when I was watching it live and I was watching the warm-ups and at Arkansas, and it's like watching the Arkansas punters kicks, and like one ball was in the air for as long as it took Kern to take 2 punts. And I have heard that Kern has improved a lot in spring, and he was a true freshman. I think the lesson there is to never rely on a true freshman punter.
Yeah, no, I think
or probably kicker, unless it's really just some stud out of high school, which doesn't happen very often.
Doesn't come around very often. But anyway, Jake, anything else on the any guys that Texas is kind of looking at, keeping their eye on? Any names?
Murad Watson, who I mentioned, is kind of the big one to keep track of right now. Maybe he'll have said where he's committing to whenever this kind of comes out. But yeah, he's the one to watch right now. He's only a sophomore. He's only played 1 year. At Syracuse, he had 15 tackles, 1 sack. He's a big guy, 6'3", 313. And I think would probably be the best get in this spring portal from the defensive tackle point of view. I think Andres is the biggest get in the portal, probably out of both portals. I think he's that good. But yeah, I really hope they can find a way to get Murad Watson in, because A, he's a sophomore. B, I think he instantly can get some playing time next year. I think all these guys are going to play. They're going to try. I mean, they like to rotate 3 sets of defensive tackles in. That means you got to have 6 bodies that you can rotate in ideally. I'd imagine at minimum they want 5 with pieces that maybe aren't rotating in normally, but have the ability to, because you're fooling yourself if you think you're just going to not get any injuries, especially in these longer seasons now.
And if you're a fan of ratings and this, that, and the other, I don't take a ton of stock into it. But if you want to go based on your overall player ratings that Texas has got commits from in the transfer portal, Jack Andres has the highest player rating at 92. Emmett Mosley, the Stanford wide receiver who committed a couple weeks ago, is the second highest rated player with a 90 grade. And then Brad Spence, the linebacker coming out of the fall portal earlier this offseason from Arkansas, with a 90 player rating as well. Those are your 3 highest rated players coming into the portal for Texas. And so, and that's according to On3, which is kind of my primary go-to when it comes to transfer portal news. But yeah, so Jake, like you said, the tight end looking like a stud. Emmett Mosley, is he going to be a surprise guy that maybe we see hit the field more often than not, that might be challenging some of these 5-star freshmen coming in this class?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, I was looking something up while you were talking, to be honest. I was seeing who else Texas was targeting. Keelan Marion is another name to look out for. BYU wide receiver. Texas would probably utilize more as a return specialist this next year. But that's another name I'm seeing Texas linked to. And if you want to ask me that question again, I will.
I was saying, so Emmett Mosley, one of the higher rated transfer players that we have coming in, is he? I think he's possibly somebody that you could see competing with a Jamie French, Khalil Lockett, some of these 5-star freshmen coming in terms of, getting within that type of rotation as maybe 3, 4. Are we looking even at the number 2 wide receiver spot at some point this season?
I mean, he's going to stay in that slot, in my opinion, not because of he can't be a top 2 wide receiver on the team next year, Though I do think the top two solidified. I think DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo will be your 1 and 2
Yeah.
as far as receiving leaders go from the wide receiver position. But Emmett Mosley, he's going to play a lot in that slot. So that third wide receiver spot, I think, because of his blocking. And yeah, to me, he sets the bar for Jamie French, for all these talented freshmen that have come in, several of them 5 stars. They're going to have to work hard to get reps from him to get on the field in their first year, because Emmett Mosley's a very good blocking wide receiver. He's very effective at catching in traffic. He's very good at making contested catches. And he's a good route runner from the slot. And that fits Sarkisian's offense really well to a T. There's a reason that they prioritized him.
That should fit just about any offense whenever you've got those skill sets, which is why he succeeded well at Stanford.
And his receiving ability is really fun to watch, but man, his blocking is the emphasis on blocking with the tight end and the wide receiver position that they've gone for this year. Granted, there's not really an Isaiah Bond type in the portal, but I don't know if they would have gone for an Isaiah Bond type this year just because of the issues last year with the blocking. Donnie Mitchell, another one who was, despite how good he was at Texas, there was a lot of frustration around his blocking at times. And I think the staff is realizing that to become a better run blocking team like they expect to be next year. And I think they're kind of changed. I think they knew they were just going to be a good running team last year, not a great, especially against the top competition. I think their expectation, I think, is to be a great running team next year. And I think it shows with the types of guys that they've prioritized.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. Unless there's anything else you want to add before we sign off. Nope.
I'm ready for football season, but man, I'm very excited again. I said it last episode. I'll say it again. I am very excited for baseball and softball this weekend.
This weekend's going to be great for some baseball and softball, especially with A&M and Oklahoma on the docket for those two respective programs. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Again, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Monday through Friday, we drop these episodes at noon each and every day. Looking to get a couple more guests on the show. Hopefully one this week. We'll see what his availability looks like. And then obviously towards the end of the week, we will give our preview to the upcoming series against A&M and Oklahoma, as we before mentioned as well. So for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. This has been your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.